Ready.
You're going. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Will you please rise and join me in the pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By the way, these mics are now keyed into the PA system.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let the record show all board members are present and accounted for. No action was taken during closed session, and I will now entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Communications. We're now going to move, this is an opportunity, just real quick, let me read this. It says, members of the public may address the Board of Trustees regarding any special board meeting agenda item. During board consideration of that item, please note that if you wish to address the Board of Trustees on an agenda item, you should do so when that specific item is called by the board president. In order to speak, please, to comment in person, please fill out a request to be heard card and give it to the board assistant. Your name will be called during public comment on that agenda item or during the specified agenda item. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. If you want to submit online, you can either submit via Assembly Gamut meetings, enter your name and email address, and the board assistant will provide your comment to the board. Or if you'd like to comment via YouTube, you just need to comment there and type your comment in the live chat section, and the board assistant will share your comment with the board as appropriate. Now is an opportunity for folks to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Please note that because it is not an agendized item, we will not be able to address that item, but we will do our best to try and address it following the board meeting. In any case, is there anyone who would like to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, we have one here. We have from Joshua Weeks. Would like to address the board? Mm-hmm.
Testing, can you hear me? All right.
Yep.
Once again, my name is Joshua Weeks. I am a parent and an educator here at the Robla School District. Good evening, everyone. I stand before you here tonight for the third time. This is my third time. It's my third time to speak out against the Helen program. That's what I'm here to talk about today. Months ago, after my last appearance, Mr. Hickey sat down with me for 2 hours. He assured me that everything I brought up to light was valid. He took responsibility, he made promises of change, and asked for the time to build a program that would serve our district and our students. I believed him, and I gave him that time he asked for. But here I am again, because that trust has been betrayed and our district has been lied to. Over these past months, I have stayed silent, I stayed patient, I stayed hopeful, but each passing day has revealed more dysfunction, more failure, and more harm. I can no longer stand by while this program continues to fail our students and our families. Let me remind you of what I brought up in the past, and it still happens today. There are students who feel preyed upon. There are students who feel unsafe. There are students who are unsupervised. They are being addressed with foul language. Classrooms are being vandalized. Students are getting into physical altercations, and the tutoring that is promised is not happening. These statements are not fabrications. They are facts, and they have been reported and recorded. Why? Because the Helen staff lacked the documented 30 hours of training which we are told they received. Because the curriculum presented is not taught in a way to ensure success. When I asked Mr. Hickey for his curriculum, I didn't receive an organized plan, a binder, no necessary materials for success. I was given his book, which he in part wrote and self-published. I have even testimonies from some of the Helen staff that they're not even fingerprinted or background checked, which is illegal to work with our children. The program receives significant financial backing, but the funds do not reflect the quality our students are experiencing. It's infuriating, it's heartbreaking, and it's unacceptable, and I don't know what these funds are being used for. I've done my due diligence. I have met with Mr. Hickey. I have given the program more than enough time. I have done research to give this program the benefit of a doubt. I've even reached out to other districts that I know this program has been a part of, and I have been told that their challenges were the same. I've even been told verbatim, if you would have asked us sooner from a district, we would have told you to stay away. This is not just my voice speaking out tonight. I'm here once again to represent our students and our parents. I'm here to represent our staff members who are frustrated, and frankly, for some who feel that if they speak out, there will be retaliation because of Mr. Hickey's connection. And while I wish I could tell you guys that those fears are unfounded, I cannot, because I have personally been dissuaded multiple times not to speak out about the program. I have felt pressure to stay silent, but I tell my students every day, when you see something wrong, you speak up. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And if I didn't speak up today, I'd be a hypocrite. So, Helen staff has conveyed to me, they have people on the board, that I'm barking up the wrong tree. The things I do and say will not change their standing at the Robla School District. But I want everyone to hear me loud and clear. I do not care if those statements would be true or false, because what I care about is our students. As board members of the Robla School District, as superintendent of the Robla School District, as employees of the Robla School District, it is our moral and professional responsibility to ensure that our children are safe. It is to ensure our children are supported and they have an enriching education that they all need and we know they all deserve. This is my third time speaking out about this program, my third time. So I hope it will be my last. And I thank you all for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'll just say this one thing that I want to make sure to note. If anyone has any concerns, we definitely encourage you to come forward. We definitely encourage you to talk to the board. We definitely encourage you to talk to your supervisors. There is nobody who has a relationship with anybody on this board that precedes the relationship that we have with our students. And that is to provide a safe environment for them to be able to learn. And that will always be a priority for this board. So thank you so much, Mr. Weeks, I'm sorry, for bringing forth that information, for talking to us. I can assure you that we'll look into it. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay.
So public comment from online, Megan Lewis, and I quote, Helen has been in my classroom for 4 days. Within those 4 days, Helen destroyed 5 games that I personally bought for my class, one which may not be replaced, end of quote.
Once again, thank you so much for submitting your comment. I can assure you you are being heard. Right. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move forward. We'll move on now to reports, and we'll start with the Robla Education Foundation.
Am I restricted to 2 minutes?
No, this is a report.
Because guess what, guys? I had to write it down for tonight. So the first thing that reporting on from the foundation, earlier this year, Mr. Caff came to me and said, hey, I would like to submit this grant through the Golden One. And it was a process that was brought to his attention by one of our parents at Robla School. I said, yes, I understand, because you're not the only one that's been running money through the foundation because of the status that we hold as a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So he submitted the grant, he wrote it up, he submitted it about 2 months ago. I was supposed to get some notifications from them, but little did we know that the email address he had put in the plan for me was in error. It was an invalid one. So we never knew what happened. I got a text message on the 16th from a representative from Golden One. We've been trying to get in touch with you to let you know that you've been approved for a grant for $25,000. How can is this a good way to get in touch with you? Said, yes. And I give them a correct email. So what's this plan about? It's called the Extending the Classroom Grant. And what we're looking to do is we're going to be focusing on 1st and 2nd grade students their ELA scores, and the students in particular that we're looking at are the ones with from the EL backgrounds and the low social economic background that whose parents cannot afford the technology to further enhance the reading of their skills of their children. So that's what we're going to focus on. Mr. Caff and I will be getting together to develop plans using the available data from the district school site to determine eligible students and families. And we're going to be coordinating through district IT, because one of the things that we're going to have to do is we need the school district support for this program. So we'll be going through the IT department, having the IT department do the purchasing and the coordination for both Chromebooks and for the hotspots. District's got a lot of background in it. We did it for 2.5 years.
Mhm.
So, and then once we determine how many families we're going to be able to support with these funds that we have, then we'll be having a parent meeting and calling in those parents of the students that we would like to serve and brief them on the program, with the idea that hopefully we can encourage them to say, yes, we'll be a participant in this program. One of the things, as you noticed on that letter that I handed to you shamelessly,
I like it. Thank you.
is we do have to do a midterm report, the golden one, as far as our accomplishments. And we've been invited for other things in there, which will be up to me and Darren to get involved in that together. But this program goes along with what I've been doing for the last 2 full years in the 4th grade classrooms here, and that is working with the reading skills of the 4th grade classrooms at Robla, and having it's 1 day a week for 1 hour in each 4th grade classroom. They've been reading, one class is reading Charlotte's Web, the other one reading Holds. And as the year progresses, their skills, their ability to read is definitely increased, and there's been a big difference. Plus, they don't want to let the old man down. Chromebook, when we do get to Chromebooks, we're going to also prevail upon the IT department to program on those Chromebooks the Lexia reading program and the accelerated reading program for these students, so that all the reading will count towards what they already do in the classroom.
Mhm.
So, which will be a good thing. Moving along, the second thing, and I'm sorry, I'm going to steal some of your thunder. I always do. As you know, we support the Strings program each year with a minimum grant of $4,000 plus the additional funds that the 5 of you kick in when you work the fireworks booth. Because basically that's where most of you send your money, from the fireworks booth, which I appreciate. And I, as always, attended the concert. We had several students in it. We had about 25 or so students in it. Their parents were there. We had multiple people from the district staff, or especially the district office, in attendance. So it was well attended by Robla. And I have to make a special acknowledgement that also Trustee Cordona was one of our people in the audience. 3, I've received some feedback. I was over at the Bell Avenue complex yesterday in a red suit, white hair, and all that. For the kindergarten, TK, and primarily preschool. And in being over there, happened to run across a couple of the different teachers that know me from, and actually requested grants this year, which were granted, and to let me know that, hey, they're getting their things and everything. Mr. Weeks in particular had ordered some VR equipment so that they can do some virtual reality field trips to different places in conjunction with what they're studying in class, and specifically in history. So he's got that. He's putting it in place. Finally, we did the trial run this year with TNT of a New Year's Eve fundraiser, which we started late because I was approached late with it. So we use this as a trial year, and we learned a lot from it. We're going to be doing some further planning, and next year, if TNT themselves decide they'll do the program again, then we'll start the program on October 15th and run to December 15th. This year, as it worked out, we started a week before the spring or the Thanksgiving break, finished the week after the Thanksgiving break. People are short on money at this time for Christmas. If we start in the middle of October, we'll be in much better shape. Plus, we just found out from the state that our temporary seller's permits, we can submit for them for a period up to 90 days instead of just a short period of time. We can do 90, found out we can do a 90-day permit. So that's where we are at this time, and looking forward to seeing y'all next year. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I know there are people here that say, well, I hope everybody else's reports are not as long as his.
I would like to say thank you for everything you do. The 25,000 is amazing from Golden One. So thank you for all the effort you've put in for our district.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Robla Teachers Association, CSCA, Superintendent's Report.
Good evening. Mine will be shorter. But it's been a while since our last board meeting, so just wanted to share a couple activities, in the district that I was participated. 2 weeks ago, I was fortunate to participate with all 5 board members at the CSBA conference. I'm very fortunate that all members attended. I thought the sessions that we attended were really informative, and I'm sure that we will be implementing a few things. We had terrific 10 this week, and Kevin Burdick from Sac Republic was our special guest. Unfortunately, I did know that Strings had their event on Monday. I was not there, but I promised to be there in the spring. Monday, we had a really good planning session. Our PD committee, our district PD committee, met with RTA PD committee. It was a really good collaborative meeting in preparation for our March PD. So I sent out an email from the committee asking for teachers and staff who want to share their expertise to provide some options, different format for March. Our school district, all teachers, actually I'm going to say all staff and administrators completed Title VII training Tuesday for staff and Wednesday for administrators. I want to just give an update, AT&T and our phones, just so everyone is aware. We should expect per Elliott, Mr. Lopez, every time we have inclement weather due to a lot of our infrastructure below the water table, I can't go more details of what that means. We will have issues with our phones. I know we experienced the same thing last year. I'm thankful that we do have a system in place when our phone system goes down that we send messaging out to families on how to communicate with sites and district office. And every time this happens, Mr. Lopez is in contact with AT&T. Unfortunately, like I said, with infrastructure below the water table, not much can be done until the rain goes away. It is very frustrating. The response is not as quickly as we hope, but I want to keep you aware because when we get more rain, we will be experiencing interruptions in our phones and sometimes our internet.
Question,
Yes.
when we don't have inclement weather, can AT&T do something about these problems so that we don't have problems when we do have inclement weather?
I can't comment on their work. It would be fantastic, but I'm going to defer that to Mr. Lopez. Unfortunately, he's not here, but I will ask him that.
And my question would also be, is there another company that would not have these same issues with whatever, so that we can have proper phone service when it is raining, because it's going to rain?
Well, I will say that we have explored, right, what are some options we can do with our phone system. But again, I'm going to defer that to Mr. Lopez, and maybe I will make a note that he can give a board update presentation, maybe at the next board meeting. Okay, Winter Festivals. Our school sites have had events last week and this week. Tuesday, I was able to attend Taylor's, which was really cute. Last night, I attended Glenwood's. Their part one, their second half is today. You know, there was an unfortunate interruption during the event, but I do want to go on record to commend the Glenwood staff and families for following protocol to ensure that safety of our students, our families, and our staff was a priority. I did receive an email from a parent who was at the event, right? But he wanted to share how he felt that the staff worked together to follow the protocols, specifically appreciated how Dr. Drea kept the families informed. They were all housed in the multipurpose room. She would go in and give periodic updates. But I did want to say I love the fact that after everything that our TKK students closed out the show, and they were phenomenal. But I did want to officially commend the Glenwood staff. Tomorrow, a double dose of joy, our partnership with the Optimist Clubs. We will be delivering food baskets in the morning to our families. And then in the afternoon, we have a partnership with Sac Republic where we will be distributing winter wish list distribution. So it's going to be nice to end the week with smiles and joy. And finally, I just wanted to wish everyone a safe and joyful holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to board member reports. We'll start with Trustee Devine,
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Cardona.
No, I didn't kind of cover every activity with it. But I do would like to tell thank you to Mr. Raven. I think he put his heart and his soul in this district, and we can see the all the benefits that we have from the hard work he does. And I do also want to tell everybody happy Merry Christmas and safe New Year.
Trustee Hamilton Starks.
I just want to say that I really enjoyed my time at the CSBA conference. I learned a lot. I'm feeling motivated and inspired by all the workshops and sessions that I got to go to. So I'm really appreciative to the district for supporting this professional development for board members. It was really good for me. So thank you. And also wishing everyone a happy holiday.
Trustee Barnes.
I guess I have a couple things to report. First, this past Monday, I attended our regularly scheduled LMI, Labor Management Institute session with Superintendent Chen and with representatives from RTA and CSEA. It was a very productive session, very informative. And I extended again invitations to both representatives to come to board meetings and communicate with us because we would love to hear from them and continue to develop that rapport. So yeah, very good meeting. I also attended the CSBA annual conference. I went a little early because I'm part of the delegate assembly, and so I wanted to give a little bit of report on that. Delegate assembly is very different. And it's representative at the state level, so we get to do state level things, set the tone and the pace for the state, and it's also where you realize how big California is, because you get input from every single nook and cranny and corner of California, and not all districts are alike, not even in this area. So I will say, I want to say a couple things. One, I am glad that we do have a veteran member on the delegate assembly who represents our area quite well and is also quite knowledgeable of other things such as the legislative process. And that is very significant when it comes to delegate assembly because we interact so much with the state. So it's nice to have that representative there to give that perspective. And speaking of Trustee DeLuce, and he is very vocal when it comes to delegate assembly, I can guarantee that he is definitely not afraid to speak up. So that went really well. There were 2 days of delegate assembly, and then we went on to the conference, and I will give a more detailed report and printed form to the board when I get all my notes combined in a nice readable format. But there were two workshops that I did want to report on. One was had to do with our electric buses. We are not alone. And I literally word for word, the stories that we reported are being repeated in other districts. And it was kind of interesting because as I thought about it, our district is absolutely perfect for electric buses. We are flat, our district is very small, and it fits within the range of what they say the buses should do, and it does not work. So you can imagine what other districts are experiencing, especially those that have topography that goes up into the mountains or so, and they literally can get stuck on the other side of a mountain with no way to return. So this is, so we are not alone. I heard different stories. One story was that one district that has made it successful does it by kind of a seesaw type action. They drive the buses to a certain point, the students get off, get on another bus, and they drive further while that bus is being charged, and then they come back and do the same thing and return. That's about the best that we've had, that I've heard of. So this is, it's just, the technology just has not caught up in buses. That being said, I still think we made the best decision we could at the time with the information that we had, and because of that, we're actually able to tell other districts not to do this right now. So that was one session that I wanted to report on. The other was I did attend the Form 700 session, and to be quite blunt, it scared the hell out of me. I will not take even a soda from someone anymore because it's just all the risk involved in this. I'm saying this because of one, it did impress upon us the need for proper reporting, and it really the threat really does come from the actual from not reporting, not from reporting. So the main thing is to report things, but two, there is a training that we will all have to do in 2025. We have 1 year to do an ethics training that will cover pretty much everything that you ever wanted to know or didn't want to know about Form 700. So I know that that's coming. Don't know all the details yet, but I know that is, and CSBA offers this training as well. They are fully aware of it. So that's something to look forward to. But yeah, if you turn your form in on time, and if it comes close to $50, definitely report it. That's all I have.
All right. I also attended CSBA, and just a couple of notes. One, in regards to the electric buses, there was just recently an article. Evidently, the Postal Service is experiencing the same exact challenges. So it seems to be more of an electric commercial vehicle issue. Not to disparage electric vehicles in general, but specifically it seems to be a commercial issue with larger electric vehicles. Anyway, there was that. No, it was a phenomenal conference. One of the great things about, in particular, CSBA is like when you hear about issues like we talk about the electric bus, the good thing to know is that there is an organization that is at the statewide level advocating, listening to the issues and the concerns that we have, and they're working to help advocate and address those issues. So once again, it's good to know that we have someone over there at the Capitol building on our side that's advocating for us. Also, I'd like to report I had a chance to attend Robla's winter concert, and I have to say, my hat's off to Mr. Caff, because it was a full house. It was standing room only. There were chairs almost all the way out into the back hallway. There were so many families there, and he was so excited because he was telling me this was the biggest turnout they've had for an event since before COVID. So anyway, so it was really good. I really just appreciate all of the parents who came out and turned out to support their kids and the other students there at Robla. So thank you. And that will be it for my report. Now we're going to move on to the annual organizational meeting, and we'll start with the administration of oath of office to re-elected board members.
So we have two options, and I think you can do it individually, or we could do it together. And either choice, I think we should do it at the, so we could hear you to the, together?
Do it together.
I'm cold. Feel my cheeks.
Oh, yeah, you are.
I'm burning.
Just for clarity, so we have two board members that were, I'm going to say appointed because they ran unopposed, but they are reelected, but they are appointed, but they did run unopposed. So,
Very tough campaign.
It was so tough. Sure.
I,
I,
Ken Barnes,
Sharona Devine,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
and
and that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I take this obligation freely
and that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties of which I am about to enter.
Yeah. Sounds like
I was so waiting for you to say, state my name. Okay. All right, now we'll move on to the election of officers, and we'll start with the office of president. I will entertain nominations.
I have a nomination. Before I nominate this person, I do want to say something briefly. I'm starting my fourth term, and think I have enough experience to say this, that I've been on boards and seen other boards function, and behind this nomination comes one, the fact that we get along really well as a school board, and two, the fact that we accomplish a lot of things. I've seen districts that don't get along very well, and I've heard about districts that don't get along very well, and I am glad that we do get along as well as we do and that we accomplish as much as we do. And because of that, I feel very confident in nominating Trustee Craig DeLuce to be president again.
I second that.
I third.
Fourth.
Thank you. Are there any additional nominations? I'll entertain a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate the trust that you have placed in me, and I will just tell you that I feel the same way about each and every one of you. I appreciate the diversity that we bring, ethnic diversity, experience diversity, diversity of perspectives, and I appreciate that we all bring that together, and we even bring together our differences in order to take a look at the challenges of the district and be creative and come up with collaborative solutions. And that's, when I think of the term collaborative, I literally picture this board. So I picture each and every one of you. So thank you. It's an honor to serve with you, and it's an honor to serve another year as your president. And with that, we'll move on to election of officers. We'll move on to nominations for vice president.
I nominate Ken Barnes
Second.
as the vice president.
It's been, okay, we have one nomination. Are there any additional nominations? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close nominations.
Second?
I accept the nomination.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
No.
I won't say a speech.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to election of officers for board clerk. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Trustee Hamilton Starks. I think she has done a wonderful job and would love to see her continue in that role.
So moved. Second?
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Before that, do we have any other nominations? Hearing none. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations.
All right, now we have appoint a board representative to the Sacramento County School Boards Association. I'll entertain nominations.
This is the role that you are currently in, right?
Yes.
And it is up for election. Refresh my memory on this.
So the County School Boards Association is a group that basically doesn't generally meet. Hasn't, except we do the quarterly dinners with speakers. I don't know why they still have us nominate somebody, but they ask us to do it, so we do it.
I nominate Trustee DeLuce to this.
Second?
Okay, are there any additional nominations? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. All right, now it's time to now move on to nominations, nominating representative. No, wait, I opened the item too early. Here we go. Nominate Region 6B CSBA delegate.
I nominate Craig DeLuce.
A second.
Okay. Are there any additional nominations? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. With that, I'll just offer this. A lot of districts don't have representation on delegate assembly. And so in particular and especially a lot of districts our size don't have representation. So to have two members on delegate assembly really, really does say something. One, about what the people in the region think about Robla, but also I think what it says a lot about what the commitment that we have to affecting the policy when it comes to our students. So just want to say thank you. Okay, next we have item G, approve the 2025 board governance calendar.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excuse me, motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to presentations and information. We'll start with 2024-25. First interim report, positive certification.
Mr. Castillo will be reporting via Zoom.
Hello,
Hello.
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 Hello. Hi. Uh-oh.
Oh, hold on.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Our mic was muted.
Hello. Look at this.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Mr. Castillo, can you hear us?
not, he can.
Good evening, could you hear me?
Okay, give him the thumbs up.
Good
Camera's not
evening,
on.
could you hear me?
Can you see us? Yes, look at.
Our camera, I think our camera's off.
Ramon, can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'm gonna keep my phone on so in case they have questions, they can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Good evening, President De Luz, and congratulations.
Can we turn him up?
Yeah, can you turn him up? It was up
And
before.
everybody who is here tonight and online. We were presenting the 2024.
Pause 1 second.
Yes.
Speak louder.
No, I told him.
Okay. They turned him up.
And can you switch the presentation so Mr. Castillo is minimized and the presentation is displaying?
You let me know when it's okay, okay?
Okay, we are going to let you present. There you go. Can you see the
Okay.
screen?
I could see the screen, okay, yes. So we'll present myself from here. Could you see the, yes, I could see it. Oh, I could not see, I see my own screen. I don't see the screen. What we could do, we can do the presentation, Chuck will do that on there, and I could just talk about it. I could mention each slide.
Okay, you could begin.
Okay. Good evening, President De Luz, board members, and Superintendent Chen, and everybody who is here tonight and online. We're presenting the 2024 first interim report, keeping in mind our vision. Every student reaches their potential in a growth-minded environment, rich in challenging practice and reflected learning for all. The first interim covers the actual expenditures from July 1, 2024 through October 31, 2024. The projections for the year as well as for the following 2 years. Slide 2, please. The whole report included in your packet has been submitted to the Sacramento County Office of Education on December 12 to meet the statutory deadline of December 15. Includes all the required compliance forms. We will present an overview of the most important points that you need to be aware, such as we will discuss the budget assumptions that we use to develop the budget. We will discuss the general fund in detail, as the majority of revenue and expenditures are in the general fund. We will also discuss other funds such as child development, nutrition services, building fund. We will review our multi-year projections, our opportunities and challenge, our next steps and recommendations. Slide 3, please.
Slide 3.
The following 2 slides are about budget assumptions. Our estimated average ADA is 1,801. The estimated period 2 ADA is 1,796. Since it's lower than our previous year ADA, we are projected to be funded in prior year ADA 1,811. The cost of living adjustment or COLA approved for 2024-25 is 1.07%, 2.93% for 25-26, and 3.08 for 2027. The books are closed and the audit has been completed and includes all the carryover. Lottery funding, we expected unrestricted funded 191 per ADA, and for the restricted that we can only use for instructional materials, $82 per ADA. Slide 4, please. Declining enrollment is included in the budget. I will spend more time than usual on this slide, as enrollment has a lot of consequences. Our enrollment is declining by 25 students, 15 of whom are kindergarteners compared to prior year. Let's examine our enrollment trends at a deeper level. We have been in declining enrollment for 5 years straight. The previous year, we have an enrollment increase of 15 students, but we added 80 TK students. ETK, one more grade level was not added. We will also be experiencing declining enrollment last year. So even we are in one grade level, we are now TK to sixth grade school district. We have 175 fewer students than pre-COVID. Putting this into perspective, that's equivalent to 7 classes and loss of funding of $2.2 million. Again, our biggest decline has been in kindergarteners. We now have 102 fewer kindergarteners, or about 32.7% compared to 2019-20. Robla School District has been working very hard on initiatives to increase average daily attendance. As we know, the district gets funded on average daily attendance. But enrollment is a key. Slide 5, please. Now we will discuss the general fund. The following 8 slides are about our general fund, our current budget situation. Our total estimated revenues in the general funds are 38.1 million. We depend significantly on the state. However, if we look only at the unrestricted portion, the total revenues are 28.9 million, of which the majority is due to average daily attendance, or as mentioned here, the local control funding formula. The first interim report shows the budget in 3 parts: unrestricted, restricted, and combined. For this presentation, I'm presenting it as unrestricted and combined. The pie charts is the same data, but we just want to present this information in pictures. 94% of our general unrestricted funds are due to the local control funding formula, or are related to average daily attendance. This is equivalent to the $27.1 million that we see in the previous slide. However, when we do a combine, our total revenue, when we add all our federal funds and all state revenues, 71, the local control funding formula is 71%. As you can see, we depend daily on the state funding. Our school district, the majority of revenue is directly from the state and average daily attendance. Slide 8, please. We discussed the general revenues. Now let's talk about the other side of the puzzle, that is the expenditures. Like our revenues, our expenditures are also divided into unrestricted, restricted, and combined. For the purpose of the presentations, we are presenting it unrestricted and combined. Our total general fund expenditure is $41.9 million. Out of the unrestricted, the majority, or 84%, is salary and benefits. We are a people business. If we look at the total, 71% of the total general fund is related to salary and benefits. Certificated salaries are for anybody who has a teaching credential, includes all the teachers and school principals. Classified salaries are for support staff who don't have a teaching credential, such as transportation, maintenance, school secretaries, technology staff. The total operating expenses include all utilities and all contracts related to special ed, and also includes on this line all our ELOP contracts. The 3 million in capital outlay includes improvements in the outside learning space, including 4 chase structures and 4 playgrounds in 4 or 5 schools. They are coming in early January. Slide 9, please. In the picture, 84% of our restricted budget is for salary and benefits, 3% books and supplies, 12% other services, and 1% other outgo. Slide 10, please. In total, the general fund unrestricted portion contributes $5.86 million to categorical programs. Within the general fund, there are some contributions to restricted programs, with the majority being special education. We do not receive federal or state funding enough. We do not receive enough federal and state funding to cover our special ed costs. Therefore, the unrestricted portion contributes $4.2 million. The other $1.3 million is restricted for maintenance account, what it used to be called the deferred maintenance. We are required to allocate 3% of our general fund to protect our buildings or our assets. The general fund in this year is also contributing for the preschool admin building, as the state does not provide funding for administrative building. It's a one-time. We do not, and it's not planned. It's not in the following 2 fiscal years. Slide 11, please. As a summary of the general fund, this page summarizes all the general fund that we discussed previously. I know there's a lot of numbers on this page, but let's focus on the total column. We expect 38.1 million in revenue, 41 in total expenditures. We transferred $500,000. We started with a beginning balance of $37.39 million, and we expect to finish with a balance of $33.6. As you can see, we have a deficit spending of $3.8 million. This is a very important point that I want to make here. Please note that the deficit is in the restricted portion, is for programs that we receive funding in the previous years and we must spend in the current year. ELOP, Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, is one of them. It is what I call planned deficit spending, which is for one-time purposes. We do not have a structural deficit, meaning that we are covering ongoing expenditures with one-time funds. Once we finish these projects, we will be done when we use the one-time funds. Slide 12, please. The restricted ending balance of $10.48 million is composed of 10 programs. 3 of those programs, Expanded Learning Opportunity, Arts and Music, and Learning Recovery, make 83 of the total fund balance. Slide 13, please. Let's now discuss other funds. The goal for this fund is to be self-supported. We are required to keep track of revenues and expenditures separate from the general fund. We expect to finish out with positive balance. However, just like the general fund, child development, and the cafeteria, we need to spend one-time funds. So that's why we have a deficit spending. The building fund is all related to the bonds, and we don't have any new revenue allocated. All of this is carried over from previous year. Slide 14, please. Multi-year projections. As we discussed, 24-25 has a projected deficit spending due to the ending of one-time funding that we had to use during this fiscal year. However, 24, 25, 26, and 26, 27 could be in structural spending. We need to align our revenues with expenditures. We have a positive certification due to a strong fund balance. I want to make a point here that multi-year projections will change as we obtain more data during the January and May revision. Opportunity and challenge. We will have a new federal administration in January. When it comes to support for public education and the relationship with the California government, we hear that we prepare that we could lose federal funding. And what is this? This is the $1.6 million or total or equivalent to 4% of total revenue. And this number includes only the Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. Another challenge will be our enrollment. Our enrollment is a question mark. Will our enrollment continue to decrease, or it's going to turn around with the developments that's happening in construction is happening in our district? What are the next steps? The budget never stops. 2025-26 will be based on the May revise. So the numbers will change. The audit report is completed and the auditors will present it during January. We'll be back in March for the second interim, and we hope to settle with our bargaining partners during this year. We need to continue working initiatives to increase enrollment and average daily attendance, especially in TK and K in kindergarteners. Just to give you an example, if we increase ADA by 1%, we will bring in additional $250,000 this year. We recommend the board to approve the first interim with positive certification. It means we can meet our current year obligations for current year and the following 2 years. It's our fiduciary responsibility to maintain fiscal solvency for the current and subsequent years. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Mr. Castillo, I have one clarification on slide 10.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For the preschool building, should that amount be 761,000?
No, because that's let me go to slide 10. No, that's the amount that we have in the contributions, because the other portions that we had a 761 has already been allocated to the resource, to the program.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, but however, you are correct. The 700 that's a total estimated, but that's the amount that we have right now in the budget. For the other one, we already expended. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments?
I can listen really well in the phone, so I could answer any questions. Just you have to be patient with my voice. I'm sorry about that.
I understand. Just wanted to say I appreciate the clarification regarding the structural deficit. The fact that we don't have a structural deficit. When the one in the years going forward, it's largely based on our projected ADA, correct?
Yes, that's the majority. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I can't tell you how many districts. By the way, I want to say I want to thank you and thank our staff. The number of districts that we spoke to when we were at CSBA who are dealing with structural deficits, because when they allocated those one-time funds, they allocated them towards ongoing expenditures, and they are not in the condition or the position that we are right now. So thank you for keeping us on track in that way.
It's my pleasure. It's a team effort. Thank you.
Seeing no more comments or questions, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Should I stay on this phone for the next items?
Let's go ahead and keep you on just in case.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to facilities update.
Good evening, happy holidays. There we go. Good evening and happy holidays. Holiday traffic has started. It took me 3.5 hours to get up here today, so be careful out there. First off, globally, before we get into this presentation, I did want to just reiterate a couple of things that Mr. Castillo had pointed out, regarding the fiscal solvency of the district and how that plays into facilities as a whole. The district went out to voters to approve bonds, and bonds are essentially loans that are approved by the populace to be repaid from property taxes. And similar to your mortgage rates, your personal credit card profiles, and so forth, the district has a credit rating. And the most important thing that a school district can control about the credit rating is your finances. And I would echo what President DeLuce had mentioned before about other districts, having to go through this adjustment period. And over the last few years, since we started the most recent facilities program back in 2014, it has been a goal of the district to maintain strong fiscal solvency. Obviously, that came after the Great Recession, came up with a bunch of other challenges that we've had over time. But the district has always done a good job of maintaining a good level of reserves and always demonstrating how they're spending down the money with care and with purpose. And because of that, we're always able to point towards that particular fiscal solvency and planning when we go into the bond rating process. So even though we typically only look at the bond ratings when we issue bonds, there are periodic checkups at Standard & Poor's, Moody's Investment Services, Fitch Rating, and Kroll all look at that particular item as they go forward and to the whole. So just want to say that, you guys have continued to look at the finances and the plans, and, that's helped to lower the overall borrowing cost for your voters as they've funded these particular facilities as we go forward. The other thing I wanted to point out and just kind of build upon too is the reference point to the AT&T services. And just so the public understands, you see all these beautiful new facilities, you see these new things, why doesn't the phones work? So the school's responsibility, the district's responsibility is up until the curb. So everything on your campuses, as we've gone through and improved the systems, new cabling, new services, but the hookups themselves are to city or to other utilities and so forth. The district does not have control over those items. So for example, one of the
There you go.
There we go. Thank you for your patience. So I think it's important for the board, the public, and I think for everybody to understand that, the improvements that we've done over the years have been done on our campuses. Given where Robla's location in the city and county and so forth, and the improvements that have been over time, a lot of the infrastructure within the streets is what's been failing. And so I just want to make that point clear to everybody to understand that we have all these great schools, we have all these great facilities. Why doesn't the phone not work? It's not necessarily a system issue on our campuses. It's really stuff that's occurring off campus. And that's true across the board. That is true in terms of wastewater. It's true of stormwater. It's true regarding water service in general, in terms of getting water into our campuses. And it's also true regarding electrical services. So just recognize that, as we have built all these improvements, that the money only goes so far, and we're only allowed to spend the money on certain items, and city infrastructure is really not something that is within the purview or responsibility of the school district. So I would encourage the board, members of the public and so forth, to continue to request of the city officials and the county officials and everybody else to continue to bring up more awareness of infrastructure. We've seen a tremendous amount of light industrial development, especially over at Bell Avenue, We're hoping that as the development continues, that the city and county continues to request that those developers improve the infrastructure as they bring those additional uses and demands into those sites. So just wanted to provide that clarification. Yes, sir.
So the problems that we're having with communication are specifically with AT&T. So how does that relate to it being a city responsibility?
So all the utilities also have entry points into your sites. So for instance, like at your home, if you go to the side of your house, there's a little utility box for AT&T or for Comcast or what have you. They're bringing the service from a pole. They're bringing it from an underground cabling system. All these utilities are in the streets. They're on the poles and so forth. And so depending on the location of those particular things and the vaults associated with those as well, it appears, and this is all speculation, but just that those things are being affected by when we're having inclement weather and so forth, and that those particular vaults and so forth, which are not owned and operated by the district, are being subject to either flooding or other types of disruptions. So all these things occur. A lot of these things are off-campus utility vaults and so forth. So when you're walking down the sidewalk and you see the hole with a metal grate over it, and it says AT&T data, those are the types of things that are getting disrupted.
Okay, so I don't know if you're the person to ask this or not, but does that mean that if we have a magic wand and switch over to some other carrier, that they would have the same issues, or does it mean that they have already done changes?
I appreciate that question, and I'll sidestep it just a little bit, but it's important to understand that all of the so there's certain requirements. So for example, a great thing, your fire alarm systems are required to be a old-fashioned copper wire communication device, okay? Which means that it's an old school phone line that communicates back to the fire department or the fire alarm system, okay? Most phone systems are VoIP now, which means it's a voice over internet protocol, which means it's basically an internet backbone. Now, every school site is going to have an internet backbone that goes into their particular site. However, okay, the way that it now works is that there are multiple companies that are going through a singular source of input. So you're basically buying broadband chunks from a trunk line, a large data line, so fiber optics and so forth. So AT&T is a particular provider, Comcast is another one, and so forth. So it just depends where those utilities are and whether or not they're susceptible to similar things that would dictate that. So it's not like a cell phone service where the cell tower out here gives you better Verizon or better AT&T stuff. We're talking about hard, actual fiber optic cables and copper wires that are dealing with a lot of the transmission of data. So,
if we can just pause, and I will ask Mr. Lopez to provide a presentation. I just want to be mindful that we discuss things that are not on the board agenda.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at Bella Avenue, we are about a week behind on our reporting here, but we are making all efforts right now to complete the project. We did have a meeting earlier today, and the construction schedule has been slipping. We're about 30 days behind where we want to be. We've been aiming for that January 15th. Right now, it's looking probably about mid-February. There was a meeting today with the contractors to discuss what steps could be made to maintain that particular timeline going forward, especially as it relates to making sure that we are cognizant of any additional costs going forward with that. Clark Sullivan, the contractor, has worked with the district to make sure that they're going to continue to work on that and to mitigate any additional costs as best as within their control as they possibly can. The electrical and low voltage system installation is proceeding as scheduled. We're continuing with work with the casework and countertops and flooring inside those areas. And over the winter break, we are going back and doing the permanent patching of the trenching that we had to do for the utilities, for the water lines, and for some of the other utilities coming into the site. Budget overall, I don't think there's been a tremendous amount of change from our last conversation, but one thing I do want to bring to your attention that will show up on our subsequent report, and that is the board tonight is considering a change order. It's a deductive change order. What that means is that we had an allowance for the fire pump house. I think we've been talking about the fire pump house for some time now, but originally we put an allowance for about $400,000 to cover that cost. We had put that into the GMP, which was under the responsibility of the site contractor. Subsequent to those discussions, we were able to reduce the overall cost of the fire sprinkler system for that project The balance will be credited away from the site contractor's contract and applied towards other costs in the overall project. So we're moving money administratively from the site contractor's contract into other costs associated with the project. So the net number at the bottom line doesn't change. We're just administratively moving those monies over from the purview of the contractor to other vendors that will be utilizing those dollars. Next slide, please. Over at Main Avenue, we're still in the design process of that particular project.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Can you clarify what you said about the deductive change orders? This deductive change orders, this means that 250,000 is going back to the district
That is
to
correct.
determine how we're going to use it.
Yes.
Okay,
Apologies.
I just
Thank
want to
you.
be clarified, yes.
At Main Avenue, we're still in the design process over there. There's been a number of design proposals that we've worked through. Right now, we're facing three major challenges. The first one is that the modular building costs continue to, while still competitive, there have been increasing costs in those particular buildings. We're seeing increases in costs related to the site contractors as well. We have proposals for the modular buildings as well as for leaseback contractors. In combination with those two things, right now we're demonstrating that the estimated amounts of dollars is exceeding the budget that's being provided by the grant. And so we are trying to work through ways in which we can look at either value engineering the overall scope to meet that, to move forward, and whether or not we're able to meet those numbers as we go forward with that as well. The other thing that's worth mentioning here is that, as we've reported to the board previously, there's an additional cost at Main Avenue that does not exist at Bell Avenue, which is the photovoltaic and the battery storage that is now required under the new building code. So in addition to dealing with cost increases, there's also additional scope that is mandated by DSA, CDE, and the Green Code. So we're trying to work through that issue as well. The primary concern, which we've said several times right now, is that we do have a deadline to achieve DSA CDE approval and a construction contract by March 27th. Frankly, that's going to be a very tall task right now, given where we're at in terms of the overall design budget. We are working with the district in exploration of seeing if we can get an extension from the OPSC. As the board may recall, we had to go through a similar process previously, and there is no guarantee that the state would provide that. The good news is that what has changed is that the California preschool TKK program is still a standalone program, and there is no additional funding that's being provided by Prop 2. The reason why that's a good thing is that there is not a continuation of that program. So those dollars are not necessarily right now being sought after by another district or another competitive round of funding. And so we are working with the district right now to establish what we believe our development timeline will be, given where we're at today, and then trying to work with the OPSC in terms of the feasibility of getting an extension going forward. If we do not meet that deadline, which I think will be the follow-up question, what happens? So the program is a hold harmless program. And what that means is that if the district decides to abandon the project and the district's unable to meet obligations, they said any unspent funds are returned to the state, and the grant allocation is also returned to the state. However, all dollars spent on development to date would not count against any future projects by the district. So it's important to understand that as well as we evaluate that. If for some reason the cost continues to rise and we believe that there's not an ability for us to meet those particular obligations given the funding that state provided us, it would be up to the district's discretion of whether or not they wanted to proceed with that project at that time. But I wanted to give that information now versus March 27th. With that, I'll answer any questions the board may have.
What's the likelihood of us getting the extension?
Better than last time. Let's put it that way. I mean, last time one of the things that CFW has is a long-standing relationship with the OPSC. We've worked with them for a number of years. I think as we've stated to the board before, about 37% of every dollar that went to that program went to a CFW client. And so we do have a very good working relationship with those folks. There are other districts that are also struggling throughout the state. with this particular program, given those new requirements. And we're aware of at least 4 other districts that we're not necessarily the program managers, but we do the state work for them, where they have run into similar issues as site costs have increased, as the demand for additional scope. Because one of the things that is important to understand is even though we have additional compliance requirements, right, the photovoltaic and so forth, the state did not increase the overall grant amount. So the grant amount for Bell and the grant amount for Maine on a per pupil basis is the same, but we're now required to do more with it. So that's important. That's an important distinction to have and to understand is that it's not just that we're dealing with rising costs, we're also dealing with additional scope. And so I think that's the main thing. And I think there is a credible case to be made with the state, especially if we can demonstrate to them what our milestones are and that we're making a reasonable good faith effort to meet those. And so I think from that standpoint, we have a good argument to make. But once again, it's up to the discretion of the OPSC whether or not they want to provide it. There is no formal mechanism for an extension, and that was the case last time. That'll be the case going forward. There's not there's no guidance. There's no procedure. There's no handbook. It really is a case by case basis, and ultimately is up to the discretion of staff at the OPSC.
Now, do they, once again, I'm just spitballing here. So they're looking at, I'm guessing they'll probably look at, well, what's the likelihood if we were to give an extension that the project is actually going to be completed? What are the things that they're going to look at? What would take us from having the issues that we're having to actually being able to complete the project where more time would make a difference?
Certainly. So I think that a couple things is that, we're going to have a very competitive construction environment in the next 6 months. So as we stated at the last board meeting, there were about 200 or so bond ballot initiatives that went onto the ballot in November. I think 75% of them passed. That's about on average. So there's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $4 billion of bonds being issued probably in the next 12 months. And so I think the good news there is that you're going to see a ramp up in overall construction. I think that the instinct would say that, well, the more construction projects means less availability of people, but at the same time, you'll see new investment into those areas. And I think people will start being able to be less picky about projects, looking at things. I think that actually, as a whole, may get some more competitive pricing over there. But it's worth watching. And the other thing, too, is inflation. We have a lot of uncertainty in the next 30 days in terms of what policies come forward and things of that nature. So I think, from that standpoint, what we could do to increase our chances of doing that is, like I said, making sure that there is a developed schedule of milestones to say, okay, on this date, we're submitting to DSA, this is when we come out, these are the partners we have on board, this is the stuff that this is our plan of attack, if you will. And being able to demonstrate that to OPSC and have a credible case to be made, I think would put us in that position. So I think that's something that we will work with the district in making sure that we're putting that together. Like I said, that's something that Greg Norman from our office has been stellar at in the past. But because there is no rubric for that, and it was very intentional that the state didn't have a rubric for extensions, right? Because they didn't want you just kicking it down, kicking it down, kicking it down. So I think in your particular case, we can demonstrate to them that there's been a concerted good faith effort to make these particular deadlines, but there have been unique challenges to that need to be considered going forward.
What role do you think the size of the project has had in terms of helping us to try and get the costs down?
So that's a good point. So one of the issues we have as a whole is that there's a certain fixed cost, right? Anytime you put a shovel in the ground, there's a certain fixed cost associated with that. There are some economies to a scaled up project. But I think the good news is that the modular companies have kept their prices relatively the same, at least a couple of them, and they've been holding that particular price for some time. But we're really seeing the increases on the site contracting side, right? So it's labor, it's concrete, it's soils, it's those types of elements that are of a challenge. And so I think from that standpoint, it's important to understand that even though in comparison to some of the other projects on or in the Robla School District, the Main Avenue project is still a substantial project.
Mm-hmm.
It is 3 or 4 buildings. It is a number of foundations. I mean, we're talking about redeveloping a major portion of that campus, and just like any other Robla project, there's no guarantee that, the existing infrastructure underneath the portables is going to be useful to the degree that we have in terms of what's going to be demanded by the new buildings. I think every time we think we've finished the campus, we figured it all out, we always get another thing that pops up. So I would just say that, that's another thing that we have to take in consideration there as well. And I think whereas we had a little more flexibility in Bell Avenue in terms of what we can do with scope and program and so forth, I think just given the additional scope that's required from the state, a lot of that flexibility is taken away. And so, being able to deliver a building of the same quality, right, and functionality as we have throughout our district becomes more of a challenge, as our sources remain the same, but our costs increase.
And if I can add, one of the things we have discovered in our conversations with CFW is some of the language in the RFP we can provide more specificity. I think the bids that came in are over our grant amount. If there is specificity in certain areas, we might find some, I guess, what they call value engineering.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
All right.
Happy holidays. I'll be back for the last item.
All right. All right, we'll now move on to California dashboard results.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, Chen, audience members. I'm Mario Penman, the director of curriculum and assessment, and I'm here to give you a brief presentation on the California dashboard. The purpose of the dashboard is to give information to districts and educational partners, which shows 2 years of data for student groups, which then gives guidance to the service we provide to our students. For the state measures, performance is based on 2 factors. The current year's results, whether results improved from the prior year, and whether we increased, maintained, or decreased. Performance of the state measures are represented by the 5 colors you see up there. Red and orange is on the lower performance, yellow's right in the middle, and the highest performance is green and blue. So how did we do on the dashboard? For Robla District, in ELA and math and EL, we were orange. In chronic absenteeism, yellow, and suspension are green. Both went up 2 levels for the chronic absenteeism and suspension.
Quick question. For
Yes.
the numbers on that, it means it's improving as in they went down or they went up and it's just
It
showing?
depends on what we're looking at. If
For the suspension rate and chronic absenteeism.
we want that to decrease.
Okay, so it being in green is bad.
No, being
No.
green is good.
Good.
Okay, I was just making sure like
Yeah.
which way the arrow was going.
Yeah, no, you want it to be green and blue
Okay.
and not red and orange. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a look at the distance from standard and what that means. As you can see in the bottom example, we have 6 third graders, and they all have their own scores. They add up all of their scores and divide that by 6, and they're 5 points above the standard. So for our district, we do the same thing for all our students, which is about 1,050 students, and we divide it by that number to get our distance from standard. So that's what you will see on the next few slides. And that change also gives us the colors that go up or down or stay the same. So let's look at some of our indicators. Here we have Robla's ELA and how we compared for 3 years. The 2024 state data is also there if you want to refer and compare it to the state. There is a new student group you will see down below, which is the LTELs, and that is the long-term English learners. As we can see, most of the student groups are orange with 3 in the red. The only group that maintained and didn't decline were the African American students. In the area of math, it looks very similar than it did in ELA with a lot of orange and a couple of red. The only group that maintained, once again, was African American students and the Asian students. Here in the suspension data, there's a little bit to celebrate. That went into the green zone, which is 2.6% of our students were suspended. Most groups are in the green and some are in orange. So I want to share some information about chronic absenteeism and reporting issues that we've had here in Robla. The slide is from Chief of IT, Mr. Lopez, who could not be here tonight, so I'm presenting it for him. Robla has over-reported absences since 21-22, and the student information system lates were added to the absences. ADA was not affected by the calculation and funding was not impacted. This fix is being applied this school year and 24-25 data will be accurate. CDE and SCOE were notified about this inaccuracy. This school year, principals will receive accurate attendance data from the IT department. For chronic absenteeism, from here and this point forward, it's kind of with an asterisk because of that data inaccuracy, but which is being resolved right now. Looking at absenteeism, even if that's the case, overall it moved up two levels to yellow, and most groups are yellow as well. We feel like next year should be even better with the accurate information. Now we're going to take a quick look at the schools and their state indicators. Looking at Bell, we see orange in ELA and math, yellow for EL students, red for chronic absentee students, and orange for suspensions. For all schools, we'll be looking at 4 specific student groups, as you can see here. When you see the asterisks here, it simply means that the student groups did not have enough students and have a color or a data. It's usually 30 students or more. For Bell State indicators, you see mostly orange in 2024. Glenwood, ELA, math, and suspensions are orange, and EL red, and chronic absenteeism yellow. Looking here, the highlight area is the suspension area, which is very low. For Main Avenue, there is orange in ELA and math, EL is green, and chronic absenteeism yellow, and suspension green as well. For the state indicators here, the highlights are suspensions and chronic absenteeism. For Robla School, English language arts is in orange, math yellow, English learners are orange, chronic absenteeism is in yellow, and suspension rate is in yellow as well. Looking at their student groups, most went up a color or stayed the same. For Taylor's indicators show orange for ELA and math, red for EL, yellow for chronic absenteeism, and blue for suspensions. As for Taylor's indicators, you see an array of colors in student groups with the highlights and suspensions, lots of 0% for some of our student groups. That is the 2024 dashboard. Any questions or comments?
One question, Tim, in terms of like the standard score goes up each year, correct?
What do you mean by this?
Well, so it's like, for example, we talked about the distance from standard. Whatever the standard is, it goes up each year, right? Or does it? Or does it stay stable?
That's
Okay.
stable.
All right. Are we making at least?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
if you're
sorry.
talking about a student, there's a difference between the whole group, like all the students,
Right.
their standards is from 0. But if you're talking about a grade level student, the standards go up every year. They have different brackets for each grade level.
Okay.
I think the question is, the number that the determines met,
Yes.
does that change based on the number of students in that grade level that's testing and how they perform? Or is it stagnant? So if
That stays the same.
if 2250 was level met last year, 2250 would be the same for this year?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you. Are we, and I noticed in particular for language arts and mathematics, are we at least making progress within that range?
If we're looking at our dashboard for ELA and math, let's go back to that.
Looks like, well, I guess as a district, it looks like we're moving in the wrong direction. Make,
Thank you, Chuck.
here we go.
You can see the 3 years, it goes from minus 49 to minus 52 to minus 61 for all students. So yes, it's going further down away from the standard. And in math, basically the same thing. Are there any other questions, comments?
Any other questions or comments? I guess it goes without saying that these are disappointing numbers.
I agree. When we're looking at the CASP scores, this is kind of mirroring that, and it makes sense because the scores were stabilized there for 3 years.
Right.
The same thing, they're kind of stabilized for 3 years, and this is just the student groups. So you're just looking at them separately. But they correlate together. That's what my point is.
Any theories as to what's going on here?
We could sit down and talk for a couple hours if you'd like.
I would love to, because whatever it is, we're trending the wrong direction.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Thank you so much for your report.
Holidays.
All right, we're going to move on to student plan for student achievement update, SIPSA updates.
I'll jump right in here.
There you go.
All right, good evening. I'm Sarah Newhouse, principal at Maine. So I'm going to give an update on where we are with our SIPSA. So I'm going to jump right in to some similar data to what Mr. Penman shared. This is a 2-year comparison for our ELA, math, and science, and unfortunately we decreased in these areas. It's not what we expected, so we stayed in orange for ELA and math. We're still seeing the impacts of chronic absenteeism and the learning loss from prior years in upper grades, and this heavily impacts our Tier 2 services. So those are 2 things that we're seeing a long-term effect from. We do have a percentage of students who are at that nearly met range, and some of those students are falling 25 points or less from standard. So we've looked at every individual score and we can tell you exactly where they sit. This gives a comparison by grade level for ELA and for math. We had growth in just a few areas, but when we look at this again, it's 4th through 6th grade, they continue to be impacted by those foundational skill gaps. And this just becomes more evident as they go up in grades because, for example, in math, if they're doing multi-step problems and if they struggle with basic math facts, it's difficult to move forward with a more complex problem. And these are students who are in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. When they were in distance learning, they were K 1st and 2nd graders, and those were where they learn all those foundational skills for ELA and for math. So that's where that big part of that gap comes from. Also at Main Avenue, we're rebuilding our upper grade teams due just to attrition over the past few years. This takes time to rebuild these teams. 3 out of 5 teachers have less than 3 teaching years experience. And so they're growing as educators, but that takes time, and that takes time to grow new teams. For our English learners, we did increase in math and science, though those numbers are still too low. We do have 20 at-risk long-term English learners, which is something Mr. Penman mentioned, and all of those students are at our upper grades as well. This is our dashboard for our LP and our English learners, and there's some good news here. We did have a nice growth of 9.5%, which was highest among the school sites, so that's moved us into green from yellow. If you look at the second chart, if you look at purple, that indicates that we had 11% who increased one level, and that's what we want them to do. And then if you look at the pink, we had 14% decrease in the number of students who decreased a level. So those numbers are moving in the right direction. And I think this is just a testament to some of the work we do at Main Avenue with our designated ELD instruction. But our CASP scores just still indicate we need to improve our integrated ELD instruction. So how are we addressing these needs? I have some examples here. Our PLSTs are working with us in math this year, and we're conducting peer observations where they get to go in and see their colleagues teach. The PLSTs are with them, and then they conduct a debrief discussion afterwards to talk about what they observed and how they can implement change in their instruction. Our next round is at the end of January. I just met with the PLSTs today to discuss next steps for that. At Maine, we're doing a math, vocabulary, and academic language study, TK through 6, so that we can ensure that the language that we're using is consistent across all grade levels. We're sending a team of 4 teachers to a professional development in math at SCOE, and it's called Building Thinking Classrooms. So we're sending a kinder, 2nd, 4th, and 6th grade teacher, so we have it across the span to then bring it back to the site. We shifted our MOU with SCOE this year. Past 2 years, we focused on writing. We've moved to differentiated instruction and first teaching because while we maximize our resources in Tier 2, if we don't change our first teaching and how we address instruction in the classroom, we're not going to make any significant impact. So we have our next round in January when we return, and our lower grades are going to focus on phonics and phonemic awareness, and then our upper grades on word work. At the beginning of the year as a staff, we identified students who were in that nearly met band, that yellow band, and then we've spent time in the trimester at PLC and staff meetings focusing on data discussions and instruction. So for example, at our PLC meeting this month, we did a deep dive into the T1 math benchmarks. We looked at error analysis, we looked at student groups, and then made plans for how that's going to impact our instruction. And then finally, our PLSTs are supporting our newer upper grade teachers on a regular basis. These next 2 slides give you just a little information about where we are at T1. So the first graph just shows some work that a first grade teacher has been doing with a small group. BOT stands for beginning of trimester. This is what their score was in the phonics survey. The end of trimester is where they are. Their goal is at 61% or 61 points. We noted what assessment we were going to use and our areas of focus. So 4 out of 5 students met their goal and 1 increased by 20 points. And then down below, we have a group of TKers. They were working on finger grip and tracing and copying, and you can see the growth that they've made there. So while we spend a lot of time in our Tier 2 with our upper grade students and the support there, we're trying to be proactive at our TK and K and first grade levels so that we're decreasing the number of students who are going to move into Tier 2 as the years progress. And then this is beginning of the year and T1 data for STAR reading levels. That's grades 2 through 6 scores, and those are some of our specific groups. And then phonics skills survey groups, you have kinder and first grade, and then some of our other groups as well. So for the most part, moving in the right direction. Attendance and school climate. So we've been working really hard on chronic absenteeism because if they're not in school, they're not learning, and then we can't improve all these other areas. As Mr. Penman shared, we have a big asterisk on our chronic absenteeism date. I'm not sure why that slide's a little off, but I apologize for that. It wasn't like that originally. For absenteeism, we did move from red to yellow and suspensions from orange to green. So the site and all of our groups improved in chronic absenteeism. So moved in the right direction, but again, that's inaccurate data. And our suspension rate is accurate. We had a decrease in suspensions for 6 out of 8 groups. If you look at that number for our group of homeless students, 2.5% equals about 1.5 students. So just understand there. I made this chart for you because I wanted you to see what the dashboard is showing and then what our internal data shows for chronic absenteeism. The yellow is what the dashboard is showing. Those are really high numbers, but we now know because lates and tardies were counted in there. The red shows what the internal numbers are at the end of June in 2024. So significant decrease in many of them. And then the purple, I ran data just now in December, so you could see where our chronic absenteeism is for each of these groups as well. So some of the things that we're doing for chronic absenteeism last year, we conducted meetings with families for TK and K students, and we found that had really great success. So this year, just this month, we finished this week, Ms. Janowitz, our assistant principal, and I, we had 28 attendance meetings with families, and these were our students who had the highest chronic absenteeism, TK through 6th grade. Those are really successful meetings. We learn a lot from our families and able to set plans to improve attendance. We have 34 current SART contracts, and we have 10 more scheduled in January. We continue with our school-wide and individual incentives that motivate our students. Our PBIS teams, Tier 1 and Tier 2, have had, and will continue this year, to have all-day intensive trainings with Placer County Office of Education. They were just with our Tier 2 team today and working with us on some specific items. Our student council has a strong presence on campus. We continue to have buddy classes. This really helps our school culture and buddy and character trait assemblies. And then communication for attendance, I put it in family newsletters. We have it at the top of every staff meeting agenda to give a check-in about where we are with attendance. And then we created these signboards this year, so these signs sit out at drop-off and pickup, the front of the school, and the cafeteria. So every day we change those numbers. And every day, everyone can see how did we do the day before. So it's pretty much right there. Parent and community engagement. We changed our back to school night this year to before school, and that was very successful. It's something we want to continue with. It really increased the first day comfort level for everybody. Our PTC has been dormant for a few years, so we had a meet and greet this month. We're going to meet again in January to plan hopefully a Valentine's family dance in February. The Sacramento Literacy Project came and delivered books for students in TK through 3rd grade. We had families who participated in creating trunks for our trunk or treat in October. The Remix Dance Group has joined us after school twice a week to teach dance to about 60 students. And then the SCOE Family Navigator that we have planned 5 parent workshops for the remainder of the year, and they'll come in either in the morning or in the evening we have set. And the topics we've chosen are mental health awareness and self-care, bullying and cyberbullying, navigating childhood and school, building a safe school community, and navigating Medi-Cal and housing. So we have those set for our families. Questions?
I have a question, and I'm not sure if it's a question for you or Mr. Penman, but why is the data broken down like this by some ethnicities and then some things that don't have anything to do with the ethnicity, like homelessness or students with disabilities? Because you could be double counting students. An African-American student could be homeless or vice versa. So why is the data broken down like this? It's kind of confusing.
Those are the groups that we have that are reported on our dashboards. Some might have less than 30 students, so that's why he had an asterisk there. Some are greater than that. And so, yes, you might have a student who is EL, who is a student with a disability, and who is homeless. So yes, they might fall in more than one category.
And if I could add, the dashboard presents programs. So special ed program, students with disability program, our English learner program, our homeless foster youth program, and then they provide for ethnicities. But it is correct that one student can fall into all 4 categories, right? But they separate it based on program as well as ethnicity.
I still don't understand why, but
I'm going to say funding also. Funding for the programs and transparency for the students that are within our district and state.
One thing that one point that you raised early on, we were talking about, you were talking about some of the challenges in terms of the skills differential as students get older. Can the dashboard break it down based on grade level?
I don't believe so. I've never been able to find, it doesn't do that. So we have to look at our internal data for that.
Okay, because I think that would really be helpful, because then that can, if that is in fact the case, and if that is in fact the case, then it gives us at least a guidance towards a potential solution. Obviously, you have one group of kids who are dealing with the challenges of not getting those foundational deficits and trying to catch them up. These are the older students. But then also with the younger students, if they're closer, then it's about making sure that, we're getting in there before they start to see that separation in terms of their skill level. But that would, I was sitting here in my head kind of doing the math of where the students would be. And I think it's the students right now, if they were kindergartners during COVID, they're probably what, 5th grade?
I actually did that.
4th grade.
We released in COVID March of 2020, so the first year of distance learning officially was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so a kinder student in 2021 was a 3rd grade in 23-24, which is what this data is.
Okay.
So.
A 4th grade now.
Foundational
Yes.
skill impact.
Right. So it would be.
1st grade, I apologize. 1st grade and 2nd grade. 1st grade, where you're learning, 1st and 2nd, where you're learning to read, that would be our current 5th and 6th, but tested 4th and 5th.
And for me, that's important, because what that says is that then we've got to make up for some of those things with the older students, but maybe we're on track with the younger students. And I just, without having the data being able to broken down like that, I don't know how we know that, except for, well, I guess you're right, we can use our internal data to let us know if that's the case. Okay, I'd like to see that, to see if that bears out.
So what I did on our second staff meeting was when the CAS scores came out, I looked at every child's score. I created data sheets for our teachers by grade level so they could see their class from last year and how they scored on CASP, and then their current configuration and what they have now as a class. And they could see a 2-year spread to see how students did with distance from standard. And so we spent time then pinpointing students who were just below where they needed to be, and you could see by how many points they were below standard. And then we decided, okay, we have to work with everyone, but we're going to target some students who can we get them just above where we need to be. And just to give you some numbers right now for our math and our T1, those specific students who are in yellow for CASP, when we compare their beginning of the year internal math score to their T1 math score, 4th grade, 14 out of 15 grew, 5th grade, 9 out of 12 grew, and 6th grade, 6 out of 7 grew. Raw numbers right there. So that's moving in the right direction, because we specifically pinpointed these students and said, we're going to follow this gold group and see how they're moving with each trimester. And then we're spending time with TK through 2 on those foundational skills so that we minimize these things. For example, all of our K through 2nd grade teachers just had a 2-hour training with one of our PLSTs. It was fantastic training so that everybody's on the same page about how are we teaching phonics and phonemic awareness? That's why as a site, we're going to take our work in January and focus in on that even more so in our first teaching and also in our differentiated instruction, which is tier 1.
Excellent. Thank you.
We have to keep in mind that the CASP is one assessment in a moment in time in the year. And as, you know, Ms. Newhouse mentioned, you are looking at the growth. And unfortunately, I'm going to celebrate the student growth, even if that doesn't result in a change in color, right? Because we know we're moving in the right directions. I appreciate you showing our internal assessments at the beginning of the year and end of trimester, because what we will now look at is our internal assessments and what that correlation is with CASP, or is there a correlation?
Excellent point. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now move on to Glenwood.
And before Ms. Rodriguez, Dr. Rodriguez comes up, I want to say, and I should have mentioned, we would have had a slide for the English learner progress on here. Unfortunately, Ms. Lyon could not make it, but she will do that presentation at the next board meeting. But our principals already have their presentation, so they might mention it. Just know that she will give our district presentation at the next board meeting.
No worries. Hi, Dr. Drea, Principal at Glenwood. We're going to go over some information, but I just wanted to echo the fact that I know there's the state mandated way that they report, which can sometimes be confusing. It's a lot of questions that parents have because it's pretty much a school's report card, but there's not a lot of information that goes into it. And so I think as our site, and Sarah did a great job, and Mr. Penman as well, in regards to breaking down what we really know what's happening inside, because like Ms. Chen also said, it's one snapshot that really can't show the true picture, but it's the way a state generalizes the schools across the entire state to just be able to compare apples to oranges when neighborhood to neighborhood, my school compared to Sarah's schools compared to the other principals, they're very different because we have a different set of needs. It's just an easier way for them to compare. So I did my best to break down some information and dive a little bit deeper. I didn't realize I had this. Okay. So our SIP, this is just a reminder, our SIPSA goal 1 was around increasing performance in ELA. We actually declined, and I'll go over some things, but one thing that I want to make clear is that this is only my second year as a site lead, but what we've been really doing with our PLC time and actually every single staff meeting is diving really deep and doing articulation from TK through 6 and making sure that we are clearly identifying goals of what it means to, number one, be a student who promotes from Glenwood or from the Robla district when you leave from 6th grade, and what set of skills you have to, and how those relate to your college and career readiness. Because you're not going to remember what curriculum you maybe got in 4th or 5th grade, but what you will carry on with you are the foundational skills that will help you become a well-rounded participating member in your society. And so those align to our changes that we're doing is our AVID implementation. And AVID, if you're not familiar with it, are individualized plans in this skill set that we give to kids and uses student engagement strategies that are research-based and tried and true. And what they do is they take all the best educational research and they make sure that they align it for those grade levels. And so you have kids doing inquiry, you're having them doing Socratic seminars, doing cause and effect, and being able to articulate their reasoning behind the choices they're making as young as TK all the way to 6th grade. And so to support with our ELA, AVID is implemented site-wide. We had about half our staff get trained this last summer, and then our intervention time is also changing. So we were noticing that a lot of instructional minutes were being missed with the transition from now interventions across campus. So with very little time carved out each day for kids to get more one-on-one support for exactly what they need to actually get our dashboard colors to move over for them to get to grade level, we're focusing more on finding minutes wherever we can. So now I met with our intervention team lead and her IAs, because we're fully staffed in IAs now, our instructional assistants, and now they're going to be pushing in. And we've had a stronger focus with centers. So if you're not familiar with centers, it's just putting kids based on their scores of what they particularly need based on if they're at grade level, above grade level, or below. And it's the same grade level standard. You're just breaking them down to their areas of need. And then you have teachers who give them more focus so that they get that one-on-one time in the smaller groups, because we all know that more individual attention will lead to greater academic progress. We've also partnered with the Sacramento Literacy Foundation, and we have a stronger emphasis within the science of reading, which you'll also see that goes with our LPAC scores. That'll come up in another SIPSA goal. But we're noticing that within ELA, we our biggest lift, like Ms. Newhouse had mentioned, is our phonemic awareness, letter sounds, making sure kids know how to blend, things like that. Your basic foundational skills that we're trying to get our kids to master, because that's what you need for any subject. And then we also have an increase in data analysis. That's been since my day one, is understanding what we're looking at. A color isn't going to tell you much. Like we're noticing, points aren't going to tell you much. What are the skills that our kids need? What particularly are we aiming for? For SIPSA Goal 2, increase performance in math. So this aligns with our ELA. We are seeing a big significant dip with comprehension. So when we dug into our data, we noticed where we were needing some assistance, it was reading comprehension in math questions. So you can't answer a question if you don't know what you're being asked. So if you have a long story that says Johnny went to the store, he bought this for this many units, got this much change back, what's the difference if it was on sale? If they don't know what the question's asking them, and if you have multiple choice questions, then sometimes within the testing, the wrong answer is there because they know if kids misinterpret it based on reading comprehension, they're going to choose the wrong question. So we're really, that shift between second to third grade is our biggest lift from learning to read, from reading to learn. So we're trying to get them to understand, to comprehend what is being asked of them. You can have a great, not Lexile level, but being able to read very quickly. So your word frequency is very high, but if you're not understanding what's being said, no matter the language, it's not doing you any good. So that's our big lift. And that's what we've been working on with our LSTs and also with our SMART goals on a monthly basis with our PLC groups. And then we're also continuing county collections because it's just a tried and true support that the district adopted before I was on board, and it's something that's very foundational for our kiddos. So goal 3, this was the biggest hit and probably the hardest pill to swallow. We declined big time. And so when I saw this, I wanted to understand. So there's actually 2 sides on this because I wanted to dive really deep into what this data was telling me. So out of all the kids that declined, there's 205 kids total that tested. 73 kids, so percentage is percentage, but I want to know exactly how many kids does that mean based on my enrollment on my site. Number one, so 73 kiddos out of the 205 that tested progressed 1 level. 3 students maintained a level 4, and then 1 through 3H were 85 students, and I broke that down by grade level, and we had 55 kiddos actually decrease a level. So this is for them to be able to reclassify that they're no longer an English learner. So focusing on those 84 kiddos that maintain the level, what we're now working with, I meet with my DLI team, my dual language team, once a month. Our kids are testing for the first time in 3rd grade, and they are in a 90-10 language model. So this is the first big test that they're taking in a language they have not learned to read in yet. So in the DLI program, they're learning to read, write, and comprehend only in Spanish. And then you take CAS for the first time, and it's all in English. And so we are looking at kiddos who don't have that skill set. And when you're looking at reading comprehension, obviously you can't comprehend something you don't know. And if you have phonemic awareness and you're sounding things out, but there are different consonants and vowel sounds, things are adding up. And so we are looking to assess our students in the language that they're learning in to help them with that comprehension and see if that makes a significant change, which I think they will. And we know it will because our English-only kiddos who are designated as English learners, our ELs, are reclassifying at a higher rate. And so you can reclassify by, number one, through the LPAC. It's a test that they take that looks at their language proficiency. Once you hit fourth grade or above, that corresponds with also your CASP scores. But CASP is done in English and your ALPAC is done in English. And if you've only gotten instruction in Spanish, obviously that's our big uphill battle. But what was new is last year, K through 6 can now reclassify. It used to be only 3 through 6, and now it goes down as low as kinders that are now taking the ALPAC, which means we're hoping to see a higher reclassification rate, because if kids are proficient in both languages, or they're an English-only student in a DLI program, which, you know, Spanish isn't their home language, then obviously their comprehensions are going to be higher, and we should see a shift there. Space is also impacting this factor as well, because our intervention team has had to move over the last 3 years, and the space in which we can actually see kids and the amount of noise and comprehension with kiddos there has had an impact. So we have, to support the goal, we have a strong MTSS Tier 1 foundation, which Ms. Newhouse also addressed on her site. We have AVID strategies. We have our Literacy Foundation partnership. We're doing a focus on science of reading, which includes an oral language fair that we're going to work on, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocab, and comprehension. And then for K through 2, like Ms. Newhouse, we use a program called UFly, which is grounded in the science of reading and also complements what Mr. Penman develops with our TCI teacher leads in regards to phonemic awareness. And so it's another area of data showing where our kids need specific help and then how we address that, and it groups the kids together. We also use MClass, which is something we bought for the whole site. We used it for a small portion of our kids last year, and this year it's expanded for K through 6. And this is amplifies the program it uses, but MClass, as a parent, but also as an educator for this site, what it does is it breaks down each of the skills that under the science of reading. It breaks down every single one, gives you individual reports from the student, tells you their areas of need, groups those kids together for you, and then gives you strategies on how to address it. So when we go back to our centers and increasing reading comprehension, it helps you say specifically, if you want this kid to move forward towards grade level, these are the exact strategies you need. And then it prints you a report for Home Connect that we send home with our parents during parent-teacher conferences that says, when you're working with your kiddo at home, here are what you can do to help them also increase their reading levels and also increase these areas of science of reading. And so we're finding key ways to message at home, build that bridge, but also make sure that our kids are getting support around the clock. We've increased our bilingual literature in our library. We've also done literacy connected incentives such as reading logs. That is now a homework policy, all grade levels for a minimum 20 minutes a night. We have benchmark schools that are linked now to our English only and DLI program. We have our monthly meetings, and then our EL specialist is training in AVID strategies and also doing workshops with our entire staff, which was an idea that she brought up herself. So moving on to our SIPSA goal for changes that we've seen in our SIPSA, we're still seeing low parent attendance at our parent evenings. That was new this year, like Ms. Newhouse, having themes once a month. So we've been doing that since August. It was 3, it's now up to 8, which is a win. We have been providing meals and then also childcare, and we've had different themes. We started with attendance. We also did online social media. We talked about bullying, and then we talked about, the last one was social emotional learning and cares at home and mental health supports. And so we've seen a trickle of a little bit more of an increase, but we're hoping to bring more in. Our PTC meetings are about the same for parents, but they just had their first major successful fundraiser, and they raised $2,800, and they're very happy. And now they can file for their 501c3 and become official, which will help them with fundraising efforts and hopefully bringing in some more parents. Our library hours are open 3 times a week. Would like to see more parent involvement there. We did have a higher attendance at our parent conferences. We saw about 80% of our parents attend those in person, which I thought was amazing. Our back to school night was also the day before, which is an idea we stole from Miss Crisp at Taylor Street, which was phenomenal. Teachers and kids both loved it because, again, like Miss Newhouse said, the comfort level was just way better for day one. And then our whole school events are our pride and joy. Those are very, very highly attended. We just had, tonight was a winter performance. I don't dress like this every day. And last night, and it's a packed house. It's standing room there. It's everywhere. It's our Harvest Festival and Day of the Dead event. I mean, you're looking at over 700 people. All of our families come out and bring friends and family to come and support. And so that is something we're trying to have trickle over to when we're trying to get resources and information out as well. This is a screenshot of a weekly newsletter that I sent out to my families. I now have a short and long version. So if they just want a quick synopsis, there's bullet points, and then there's if they want more details. And I made it a requirement with our staff as well that they send this out on a weekly basis of what's going on in the classroom so parents are up to date. And then we had an implementation of planners, a bilingual planner for all of our kids to start with their organizational skills that they can take with them all the way into college and into their careers. And that is an Avid strategy. And that started as low as second grade this year. And we're continuing that on and adding first grade. So it'll be first or sixth for next year. So for goal 5, improving school climate and attendance, again, we addressed some of the attendance. It wasn't that big of a hit. But again, we would love to be over 90% of our kiddos. Tardies are huge, and getting kids to be present, but it's mostly convincing parents to make sure they're not taking long trips. We have a high culture of kiddos leaving around this time for an extended period of time. And then it's getting that independent study work back to retroactively get attendance. And so our front office team is absolutely amazing. Ms. Tran is amazing with meeting with our kiddos and doing our SART and SAR, but we're finding different initiatives. We're meeting with parents on a monthly basis. We have weekly communication. We have attendance Olympics. So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out to staff that awards them, and the kids get awarded. They get Gator Bucks. They get the Gold Gators that we announce that certificates go on their windows, and just trying to find consistency there, but also find different initiatives that make them not want to miss out on school, but also convince their parents that it's important to not miss out as well. And so we did see a few changes to our funding. We had an increase in our Title I and an increase in Title III. And the way we want to implement this when we meet with our next school site council meeting is professional development, professional development for staff, increase in reading incentives, particularly for our ELL kiddos, and then LPAC testing support to reclassify kids before third grade before CAS becomes a factor, because that's a big hiccup for us. And then we've been doing LPAC training, and then offering workshops through our EL specialists would increase as well. Any questions?
Questions, comments? I want to thank both you and Ms. Newhouse for really digging into the data and really helping, number one, helping us find areas of success, showing where we're having areas of success, number one. But number two, identifying some areas of challenge, and then specifically speaking to and speaking to solutions. In other words, things that you're putting forward in order to address those. So really, really appreciate that. All right. Thank you. All right, we're now going to move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now move on to action items. Action item A, approve acceptance of gifts.
So moved. Second.
Been moved in second. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Action item B, approve 2024-25 school year first interim report and positive certification.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item C, approve revised policies, regulations, and/or exhibits.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item D, approved 2024-25 service agreement with DFS Green for Glenwood Elementary School.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate?
Will this be done over Christmas break so the kids all come back to a classroom?
It's scheduled for December 23rd and 24th, Monday and Tuesday.
Any additional questions or concerns or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item E, adopt annual and 5-year developer fees for 2023-24 fiscal year.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion or debate?
We have Mr. Castillo available.
Yes.
We need to report that, ensure that we are using the developer fees only for approved expenditures. And what is included here is how is 23-24, that is the correct year for the expenditures, how we spent it last year and how we plan to spend it in the future year. That's what this report is about. So just to meet compliance, we have all to make sure we don't use developer fees for like salaries and benefits or any administrative fees, and only for facilities items. That's what it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item F, adopt committed revenues and fund balances, resolution number 917.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
Yeah, this item is a resolution that committed funds during part of the last year. The board had committed funds for the administration portion of the preschool building. That's the highest level of committed funds, and only the board can uncommit it to show transparency. And as we are completing this project, we want to pursue a resolution that we are moving this from the committed funds to the expenditure portions. And this is something that the auditors will review, as only the board could commit it. If the board committed, only the board could uncommit it.
Okay. Any questions? Any more discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item G, approve service agreement with Bender Rosenthal, Inc. for land appraisal on the Panhandle project in Natomas.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion?
I thought we were.
This service agreement, we want an independent appraisal. So we want to have our own independent members. And instead of going with the developer fees, we want to do something independent. That's the reason we went through. We reached out to the county, and this was the recommendation. And that's the reason of this agreement.
So just to add, the area in the Panhandle project that has a designated area for Robla in the elementary school, the developer has secured an appraiser, and we would like to secure our own appraiser.
Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose because I don't understand why we need to pay for it.
Abstentions? Motion carries 4-1-0. Item H, approved service agreement with Clark Sullivan Construction for installation of new digital marquee at Robla Preschool.
So moved.
So moved.
I moved it, you can second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate?
The marquee is not part of the pre-K TK grant, so we felt it was important that the preschool with its new building, that they get a new digital marquee similar to all the other schools. So this is, this item is the Clark Sullivan portion, and then the next item will be the architect design for the same marquee for the preschool.
You know the marquee, right? Yeah. That's just the
We currently have a marquee in place that is manual. I'm going to say manual. And all our other schools, as we upgrade them, they have a digital marquee.
I'm trying to look on the map and I cannot figure out. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Sorry, I was looking at the thing of it. Okay. Good.
We good? Okay. All right, seeing no further discussion or debate, we will move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item I, approved service agreement with LDA installation for new digital marquee at Robla Preschool.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item J, approve agreement for change order number 2 to Clark Sullivan Construction for the Bell Avenue Preschool and Transitional Kindergarten Classroom construction.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Section 9, board member requests for future agenda items or reports. Trustee Devine.
Nothing at this time?
Trustee Cardona.
nothing in this time.
Trustee Hamilton Starks.
I would like a report on what we're gonna do about Helen. Sooner rather than later, before the kids come back to school, would be helpful, or?
Trustee Barnes.
None.
I'll just reiterate the interest in conversation about Helen. And with that, this meeting is now adjourned.